Yeah, I saw you on The View.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been overwhelming my past couple days.
Yeah, is that annoying?
When I was on there, I really had no idea how it was going to land with the audience. So I just went in there, did my thing. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know who Sunny Hostin was. I actually still really don't know. So I wasn't expecting necessarily for her to kind of try to ambush me in that way. And
you can tell by the look on her face that she doesn't understand what he's saying.
When you do look at the socioeconomics, you see the huge disparity between white households and black households. So your argument that race has no place in that equation is really fundamentally flawed.
The question is, how do you address that in the way that actually targets poverty the best?
Great.
And what Martin Luther King wrote in his book, Why We Can't Wait, is he called it, we need a Bill of Rights for the disadvantaged. And he said, yes, we should address racial inequality. Yes, we should address the legacy of slavery. But the way to do that is on the basis of class. And that will disproportionately target blacks and Hispanics because they're disproportionately poor, but it will be doing so in a way that also helps the white poor.
This wasn't just another polite daytime interview. The moment Coleman Hughes sat across from Sunny Hostin, the temperature in the View studio changed. What should have been a straightforward discussion about his book quickly spiraled into a confrontation. Sunny didn't just question his ideas, she questioned his integrity. Hughes, steady and unshaken, fired back with history and logic. Clips flew across social media, sparking debate far beyond the studio audience. What follows is based entirely on real footage and public reporting. And when the dust settled, Joe Rogan stepped in, ready to unpack exactly how one interview turned into a viral showdown.
The ladies of The View didn't much like that, especially Sunny Hostin. Watch.
We should try our very best to treat people without regard to race, both in our personal lives and our public policy.
Of course.
And the reason I wrote this book, thank you. The reason I wrote this book is because in the past 10 years, it has become very popular to, in the name of anti-racism, teach a kind of philosophy to our children and in general that says your race is everything, right? And I think that is the wrong way to fight racism.
I don't want to say it's your youth, but I think you have a point, but I think you have to also take into consideration what people have lived through.
The default right now in a lot of areas of policy is to use, black and Hispanic identity as a proxy for disadvantage. And my argument is that you actually get a better picture of who needs help by looking at socioeconomics and income. That picks out people in a more accurate way. Right.
And I've read your book twice because I wanted to give it a chance. Your argument that race has no place in that equation is really fundamentally flawed.
Coleman Hughes entered The View to talk about his book. What he walked into felt more like a trap. He laid out King's vision, poverty over race, class over color. It was a careful argument, backed by history. But Sunny didn't wait long. She leaned in with that rehearsed calm and dropped her line. She'd read his book twice, and it was fundamentally flawed. Twice, as if repeating it made the dismissal sting more. The studio air turned heavy. Coleman stayed still, unshaken. But viewers later wondered, had Sunny planned this moment from the start? Was the point really to debate, or to brand him before he could even finish? Subscribe now to see how this showdown with Rogan and Sunny unfolds next.
Well, it is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies infested hen house.
The most interesting part was their audience seemed to be on my side.
Yes. Yes.
And that's their audience.
Yes. Well, their audience is not really their audience. Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. I don't know if you've ever seen audiences before for TV shows, but a lot of them are paid. They're paid to be there. So, because they have to guarantee that there's...
The exchange had already turned sharp, but Joe Rogan's take pushed it further. He called The View the show people love to hate, comparing the set to a rabies-infested henhouse. The line wasn't just brutal, it was oddly fitting. Viewers knew exactly what he meant. Noise, chaos, feathers flying with no one really listening. And then came Coleman's revelation. For all the tension in that room, he noticed something unexpected. The audience, supposedly The View's own, seemed to lean his way. A ripple of support in a place designed to box him in. Stay with this, because the reaction outside that studio would only get louder.
I read the book twice because I wanted to give it a chance, and she was like, "Yeah, this is a piece of shit. I'm going to read it one more time. Maybe I'll get it."
It's a lie.
I don't think you read it once.
She didn't read
seems
anything.
to have picked through. But it's like that's what a dumb person says to sound like they're smart. Like, it's fundamentally flawed.
But so Sunny's getting upset because one of the big problems with Coleman is he's black. And you can't dismiss
Please
him.
take that quote out of context and just repeat it.
It's just the worst.
Sunny would
That's the worst part
love.
about him, to be honest. But
She'd love to be like, okay, Karen, but she can't.
Yeah.
Right? She can't.
The audience shifted, unsure whether to clap or stay quiet. Online, the clip spread like wildfire. Viewers slowed it down, pointing to Sunny's expression, the way her tone carried more accusation than inquiry. So The View had thrown its punch. Accusations flew, the labels stuck fast. Most guests would have stumbled, but Coleman didn't flinch. Where Sunny pressed harder, he grew calmer. And what came next was the kind of reply that flips a confrontation on its head. Was this just composure or the mark of someone exposing the playbook in real time?
Your argument for color blindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the black community, if I'm being honest with you, because I want to be, believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you...
He's never voted for a Republican.
You said that you're a conservative.
No.
No, you did. You actually said that in the podcast that you did 2 weeks ago.
I said I was a conservative.
He's not.
Yes, you did.
I don't think I've been co-opted by anyone. I've only voted twice, both for Democrats. Although I'm an independent, I would vote for a Republican, probably a non-Trump Republican if they were compelling. I don't think there's any evidence I've been co-opted by anyone, and I think that that's an ad hominem tactic people use to not address really the important conversations we're having here. And I think it's better, and it would be better for everyone if we stuck to the topics rather than make it about me.
I want to give you the opportunity to respond to the,
I appreciate
the criticism.
I appreciate it. There's no evidence that I've been co-opted by anyone.
The studio had just watched Sunny launch her sharpest strike, labeling Coleman a pawn, even a charlatan. The weight of those words hung in the air like smoke after a match is lit. But Coleman didn't raise his voice. He didn't flinch. With the calm of someone who had rehearsed nothing, he simply laid his record bare. 2 votes, both for Democrats, an independent willing to consider anyone credible Republican or not.
Yes.
And I think part of the reason it went viral is because what people have told me is you very rarely see someone who gets a character attack on a big TV platform calmly expose it as evidence-free and then just move back to the topic.
Yeah, well, that was beautiful that you did that. And that's how everybody should approach these things. And
absolutely.
the problem is...
It was a judo move in real time. He turned the attack back on itself, calling it what it was, an ad hominem, a distraction from the real debate about poverty and class. And in that moment, the audience leaned in, because rarely on live TV does someone take a punch and expose it for what it is, empty. Online, that clip spread fastest of all. People weren't just replaying Sunny's words, they were replaying Coleman's composure. And that raises the bigger question. When calm reason beats televised outrage, who really ends up on trial?
He had tweeted that, like, if you want to call me a conservative, I'm not going to be bothered, but that's not how I call myself.
Yes.
Aha! That's how the thinking is at The View.
What she is saying in so many dumb, sort of convoluted ways, she's trying to call him an Uncle Tom.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what
right.
it is.
Without a doubt.
Why do white people on the right like you?
What happened next felt almost scripted. The viral exchange suddenly disappeared from YouTube, gone, like it had never happened. But social media had already grabbed it, clipped it, memed it. By then, the horse was out of the barn, and Coleman laughed at the absurdity. He'd walked into the interview blind, had no idea who Sunny Hostin even was, and yet walked out at the center of a national debate.
is that she channeled a lot of the way that people interact with Coleman Hughes in the world. That is a style of argumentation that is really popular in the media and broadly on the left as well, of like, oh, you know, you're being co-opted by the right. You said something that the bad people agreed with and like retweeted or did this, and I thought that you were an ally, and now I guess you're not an ally or whatever. This is a style of argumentation, and it was great to see Coleman with his like heart rate down at 42, as it always is. Point out that this is a bad style of argumentation.
The clip should have ended there. A fiery exchange, some headlines, and then the cycle moves on. But instead, it crossed into new territory, Rogan's studio. With a smirk, he unraveled what millions had just watched, calling The View exactly what he believed it had become, a stage for shock, not substance. And the way he contrasted Sunny's blinders with Coleman's independence, you'll want to hear this.
I think Sunny's very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
You know, that's what I think. The other ones, there's a couple of the other ones. Don't have to name any names. Are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart but captured.
She came into it. It seems really wanting to paint me as someone that has been co-opted by the right wing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much research she had done into me. She claimed to have read my book twice, which is almost certainly not true.
The clip was already bouncing across every corner of social media when it finally landed in Rogan's studio. The lights were low, Coleman sat across the table, and Rogan leaned back with that half grin he saves for nonsense. "This is the show people love to hate," he said, shaking his head. To him, The View wasn't a debate stage. It was a factory for viral outrage. A rabies-infested henhouse designed to stir noise, not sense.
The real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point. Most of those people can't leave the house.
South African president paid a visit to the White House yesterday, which turned into a surprise presentation on conspiracy theories of a white genocide in his country.
I think the problem with that show is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in. You know, and they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her.
So between ambushing Zelensky and this, why would world leaders continue to come to the White House?
Well, their audience is not really their audience. Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. If you've ever seen audiences before for TV shows, a lot of them are paid because they have to guarantee that there's going to be people there. So there's services that you hire.
This is the problem with getting all your information from Laura Loomer and Elon Musk. This is what they're going to deal you.
It's a very strange show.
Rogan then took it wider. He called out The View's bubble. The way they fill seats with paid clappers, the way they shout down token conservatives, the way every show ends with another viral clip tailor-made for hate watching. It wasn't just a critique, it felt like someone pulling the curtain back on a daytime illusion. And as Rogan leaned closer to the mic, you could almost hear the unspoken dare. How many more debates like this are less about conversation and more about keeping the outrage machine running?
And Sunny decided to take up a few minutes of that precious 8 minutes and attack me as someone who's been co-opted by the right and someone who's a charlatan. And
did she use the term charlatan?
She did. And it's funny because I actually didn't notice it in real time. I kind of went in one ear and out the other. But
how did she say it? Do you remember what
she said? Something like a lot of people in the black community, implicitly herself included, think that you've been co-opted by the right and that you're a charlatan.
Oh, wow. It's a dumb way of addressing a thing, and to immediately say that someone's been co-opted with no evidence whatsoever. There's nothing about anything that you say that seems right-wing. You know, you're just objectively looking at these subjects and giving a very intelligent and
8 minutes, he said. That's all the time they had on The View to tackle one of America's hardest questions, race. And instead of engaging, Sunny used those precious minutes to brand Coleman as co-opted and even a charlatan. Rogan chuckled. The words hadn't even registered with Coleman at the time. Then he cut sharper. To call someone co-opted without evidence, he said, is a dumb way to argue. There was nothing right-wing about Coleman's views, just intelligent, measured analysis. In fact, Rogan went further. Coleman was one of the least politically captured voices he'd ever met.
It's a bizarre show.
So we had 8 minutes, and America's approach to race, pretty big topic, pretty important topic.
I think the way you, before you start, I think the way you described it is brilliant, and the way we should all look at it. Of course, you're going to see race. The idea of being colorblind is ridiculous, but treat everybody. They're just human beings.
Yeah.
Everybody's just individuals.
That's right.
That's what we should all hope for. And then there's some people who are good intentioned, but have a very narrow perspective and a very limited amount of information that they're operating under, that will try to pretend that these things are overall good, are net positive.
Right. And Sunny Hostin may be one of those people.
The studio fireworks were loud, but the echoes carried farther than anyone expected, because this wasn't only about Sunny and Coleman anymore, it was about the way labels like right-wing get weaponized to end conversations before they begin. Rogan and his guests peeled that open, asking whether America is stuck in a cycle of outrage that ignores the real issues underneath.
Keeping his composure, all credit to him, but it is just such an embarrassing thing to see happen. And for him to, to be gracious, thank her for the opportunity to respond to these things. When I'm having a sophisticated argument about some important issue that has great gravity to me, the last thing that I want to do is burn time talking about this person's presumed motives and the way that they've been mind controlled into having their particular views. Talk about my ideas. Don't talk about me. Don't talk about my relationship with my kids or my wife if it isn't relevant to the discussion. Talk about the ideas. He did that. He stuck to the point. There is a reason why people like Sunny run away from the opportunity to actually debate the merits of very crystal clear, transparent proposals.
In the aftermath, the irony was impossible to ignore. Coleman's biggest crime on that stage had been refusing to play the victim. While Sunny tried to brand him, he calmly circled back to the argument, quoting King, talking poverty, talking class. Camille Foster described it best. It was embarrassing to watch the time wasted on character attacks when the country needed a real conversation.
I do think what he is doing in public is important and relevant and is helping to elevate our discussions about race and a range of other issues. So the audience is with him. And I think it tells you a great deal. The executives in the C-suite, the people who are hosting these shows, they may be complete fundamentalist ideologues on these issues, but regular people, everyday Americans, generally share the same sensibilities. They want to they believe in human dignity. They want to judge people on the basis of their individuality. And I think a lot of people have been pulled in unhealthy directions in recent years, but that is starting to snap back into the right place.
But here's the twist. The audience, the one the View counted on to clap in the right places, seemed to side with Coleman. Foster suggested it said something bigger. Everyday Americans are tired of labels. They want debates about ideas, not loyalty tests. And that raises a quiet suspicion. If even a studio crowd, often handpicked and staged, can see through the act, how long before the wider public tunes out altogether? For now, the clip stands as a reminder. Outrage may sell, but calm reason has a way of stealing the show.
But when you say 30,000 civilians, it's not 30,000 civilians that have been killed, though.
How many thousands have been killed?
So according to Gaza Health Ministry, which is run by Hamas, the number they have is 32,000. But they don't distinguish between Hamas and civilians.
How many members of Hamas are there?
40,000, something like that. I don't think the number is known, but it's tens of thousands. So Hamas says 32,000 people have been killed, civilians and soldiers. Israel says 13,000 soldiers have been killed by Israel. So let's not doubt either number. They could both be inflated. But if both of those numbers are accurate, which they may or may not be, that would be 13,000 soldiers killed, 19,000 civilians killed, which for urban combat in the Middle East is a very normal ratio. It's very distinct from genocide, because genocide is when you're trying to maximize civilian casualties. I think Israel, however imperfectly, is doing the opposite. They're trying to minimize civilian casualties.
From one tense exchange on daytime TV, a much larger story unfolded. Coleman Hughes walked into The View to promote a book and walked out at the center of a viral debate. Sunny Hostin's attack, Coleman's calm rebuttal, and Joe Rogan's sharp critique all turned a brief interview into a case study of how America argues about race, class, and identity. The question now is, Will audiences view Sunny as a victim of tough criticism, or will they see Coleman's calm approach as the stronger voice that cuts through the noise? One thing is certain, this clash has sparked a debate that won't fade anytime soon. This video features commentary based on publicly aired segments from Joe Rogan, Coleman Hughes, and verified media coverage involving Sunny Hostin and related news events. All references are drawn from public sources. No private or speculative information is included. The content fully complies with YouTube's community guidelines and fair use policy intended for commentary, critique, and analysis. And if this perspective gave you something new to consider, don't forget to subscribe because the next big moment is always closer than you think. Thanks for watching.